Hitting the road is always necessary on these adventures, and this one was going to be a special little drive. It had been 10 years since I said goodbye to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it was time to venture back down and see it one more time in a picture, clear as day. Going up familiar streets invokes a great sense of nostalgia, but seeing old friends is even better. Along with artist Maria Mangano and her husband Dave Rowlandson, we were all students at one point in a place we all used to call home for 4 years, Carnegie Mellon University. I was no stranger to this land, but some reintroductions were in order. But it would be the weekend at which some alumni made the trek back to campus in a CMU tradition held for what would be 100 years, Carnival Weekend. What was once upon a time for me a weekend of college student debauchery and endless partying had now become many moons and ships sailed long ago. And since I had no desire to be the creepster reliving the glory days of fast metabolism and a couple hours sleep, I had no problem seeing how traditions on the Midway carried on, particularly with the student-made booths. Where those temporary walls would come down, there were still walls around that stood as they did when I'd left. So what's a gal to do? Wrote my dear friend Aileen, also visiting that weekend, and venture off to where all our fancy footwork began, at the College of Fine Arts. Aileen and I met in 2000 when we were both starting out as students at School of Art in Carnegie Mellon, armed with sketch pads, backpacks, toolboxes, and whatever else at the time. Minus all of it, we still saw much of what we saw then. But with many years past, of course, some changes might come that you just aren't prepared for.
I came here to use the bathroom, and unfortunately, as you can see, there is no more bathroom. This is the arch where the entrance actually was, so there's proof that there used to be a bathroom here.
Learning technique and concept, falling asleep in the occasional class, and surviving on a candy bar for all-day nourishment some days, running back and forth to buildings, lugging equipment and books. It all may have been a blur, but it was definitely 4 years of a solid experience. And of course, memorable professors, who most likely made the blurb that much more colorful to our own amounts of crazy.
I remember one of the professors was one that all the girls were in love with. And he had this very deep, sonorous voice and very soothing.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
With just the mere twinges of jealousy rippling about towards the new digs of the school, I was still happy for the old ones. And with that, it was time to venture off a bit from my pit art beginnings and seek some other means of fulfillment. Translation: Darlin', I'm hungry. Let's go find some chow. Perhaps roaming down the street to one of the local college joints would be best, though I knew I'd only want a steak sub for nostalgia's sake from Friday lunch dates past. Easily a wonderful fix. Or maybe what I was yearning for was a favorite on a house-made cone. At the first place I discovered Mixon's way before I'd ever discovered what a Cold Stone even was, with the unmistakable delight of an M&M surprise at the bottom of your cone. Maybe I wanted a classic grease truck fix, which now sat across the street from where I really called home for my final 2 years as an art student. But no, with only a small amount of time, this was going to call for a little bit of soul-searching, a little something more. And so, it was time to find a place to play upon both with an even plane. Step right in, brothers and sisters. Take a seat and open up your hymnals to any page you'd like, because things are happening here with all the happy people at the church.
It's my first time here actually in 11 years.
We have a lot of churches and many of them are no longer churches, so they get desanctified and turned into restaurants, apartments, hair salons, dueling piano bars, clubs,
Hair salons.
recording studios. There's a place in Millville called Mr. Smalls. That's an old church. It's a concert hall. I live across the street from a church getting turned into condos.
It's your first time at the church brew works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Why is it weird?
Because I've never seen a church turn into a bar before.
Well, this is more than a bar, dear. This is more than you bargained for.
They always have the house beer.
Yes, very nice.
The Church Brew Works, serving up house brewed beer, pizza, and a must for me, smothered Pittsburgh pierogies. When in Rome, particularly with the pierogi pocket of America, you will do as you do. A peaceful ending to a memorable day, and with the journey half through, there was still more to come. On a Sunday morning in Pittsburgh, I promise you, there's only going to be one thing on my mind. Pamela's is definitely a hot Sunday spot, and the good word about it seems to travel pretty far. And when the craving's been filled, it's time to pursue the Strip District. Long ago in the 19th century, home to much of Pittsburgh's factories and industrial life, it progressively became an economic center of the city. As well, it provided a home to many of Pittsburgh's trademark food establishments, feeding local workers as businesses continued to grow. Today, the Strip has developed into a market district with a plethora of small businesses, but most exciting of all, an eclectic abundance of wholesale food providers.
We're in your heaven, honey.
Yeah, see.
For us, it kind of feels a little old world. It reminds me of the markets in Italy.
It's a lot like Europe.
Yeah. Small markets, you kind of make a stop at everyone instead of having a supermarket.
We go into Penmac, we get our cheese, we go to the Middle East, Eastern Plate, get our pita, we go to the Asian groceries.
Yeah.
It's really unique. It's the part of Pittsburgh that makes your parents jealous.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you do end up in search of one great stop in the Strip, stop right here. A family-built business, providing hundreds of Italian specialty products, fresh prepared food, and tons of fantastic Italian cheese. This is the place one simply must allow themselves to swim freely in. But of course, there are just some things that even the classiest of stores can provide, and the exploration of them, of course, is always delightful. But before we prep for what will no doubt be an awesome last meal, there's still a few more things to see. Although still commemorated for much, Pittsburgh's efforts towards economic recovery continue on.
There's like whole roads up on this hillside that are just like abandoned now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like there's like, you could tell there's old foundations.
Outside.
Yeah, like on the south there's like a whole couple roads through what are now woods that clearly used to be a neighborhood.
Eventually and hopefully, the gaps will be fully repaired and restored. And with the rise in popularity of its prominent art community, I think it can definitely help. It just might get people to come and help sew up those last few stitches. In fact, I'd say there's one place in Pittsburgh that definitely holds the needle to that thread. Amongst the many great extended branches of Pittsburgh's life in the arts, contemporary art definitely thrives at the Mattress Factory. A museum in the city's north side, it houses the supported work of many world-renowned artists, including James Turrell and Yayoi Kusama. Unlike your average cold and beautiful approach to museum going, the Mattress Factory fosters and encourages visitors to find a connection to the work displayed, however they can. As the Mattress Factory continues to give artists opportunities to forge ahead the new face of art, it's one we definitely hope to see again soon, because as all good things must come to an end, so is our trip. But not before we have a much-needed one last fiesta, in what I've decided is truly one of the coolest places in the city. Maria and Dave's home in the South Side is definitely one of the finest labors of love one could find in the hills of Pittsburgh. With Maria formulating her ideas in a personal studio space and Dave with a PhD in robotics, the small touches of personality everywhere transform their beautiful home with a strong sense of comfort and a large brushstroke of cool. And of course, the place I always call the beating heart of a home definitely gets the attention from all for this last group dinner. Years later, what a time it was, is, and will be.